Okay, why don't we start? I'm sure some other folks will join as we're in progress. But so welcome everyone. My name is Andre Cote. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the DAIS, which is a think tank at Toronto Metropolitan University. I'm also the head of this Secure and Responsible Tech Policy Program. And so it's a pleasure having you here today for this info session. So what will we cover? Let me pull up my slides and we can talk about that. Okay, so we are here today to talk about and give you a preview of or an overview of our Secure and Responsible Tech Policy Foundations course, the winter edition we're going to be running starting in late January. So what will we cover today? Here, pardon me for 1 second. Block up the background noise. So what will we cover here today? We'll do a short presentation to give an overview of the program and of the course. We'll open things up for question and discussion. And I promise you everyone will be out in 30 minutes or less so we can get back to our lunch, get back to our work day, what have you. Okay? Make sense? So why SRTP? Why Secure and Responsible Tech Policy? Why is this a program that we've decided to launch at Toronto Metropolitan University? So here are some examples. In Canada today, we are seeking to regulate AI in an extremely complex landscape, engaging with similar policy and regulatory efforts in the United States, in the European Union. And you can see, we have a bill in front of our parliament right now, and it's a struggle to bring forth policy for AI that can really meet the moment. Similarly, in terms of social platforms, we're increasingly recognizing that our ubiquitous use of social platforms, from Facebook and Instagram to X to TikTok, is creating online harms. This is a place where we've done a bunch of research at the university. So how do we think about policy for protecting people, for protecting Canadians from online harms? We can think about digital divides in Canada. In an increasingly digitized society economy, how do we make sure that Canadians have the level of internet access they need to be able to participate? And digital divides stretch beyond that to areas like access to devices, to digital literacy, with different challenges across different population groups in Canada. So how is this an issue that we address related to our digital infrastructure and our connected society? And finally, how are we preparing ourselves for cybersecurity threats? We're seeing the near constant examples of ransomware attacks, other types of social engineering attacks that we're receiving in our inboxes. So how are we preparing ourselves for these things, and how are we thinking about some of the higher level policy issues in Canada about cybersecurity? So these are just some of the challenges in this tech policy domain. And they really lead us to our sort of problem statement for this program. And it's essentially this. Tech policy has not been able to keep pace with digital innovation in our society and economy. And so we urgently need to equip professionals, equip ourselves in Canada with the knowledge, skills, and networks to be able to respond to these types of challenges. So the Secure and Responsible Tech Policy Program, we introduced it about 1.5 years ago. So we've been delivering courses for, I think, 5-6 courses to this point. And the program really had 3 objectives. The first was to enhance learners' understanding of tech and cyber policy in this rapidly shifting Canadian and global landscape. The second was to develop applied skills for critically analyzing tech and cyber policy issues through a secure and responsible tech lens. And so I'll come back to that in a moment. But this idea of hands-on applied skills that we can take back to our jobs. And the third was to do it in a way where we can learn with peers from our sector, but also from across sectors as a key part of it. The peer learning in the program, but also building our networks that can allow us to better do this work in our jobs and through our careers. And so for completing courses in the program, learners secure or receive a professional micro-credential. And so this micro-credential is endorsed by or is issued by us at the dais at Toronto Metropolitan University, but in conjunction with all of our terrific program partners. So with us at the university is the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst. And then other key partners on the program include the Council of Canadian Innovators. They're basically a national industry association representing Canadian high-growth tech companies. So representing Canadian companies in the tech sector who are engaging in policy as well as developing all sorts of different products and services. The other is on the public sector side, Ontario's Cybersecurity Centre of Excellence. So within the Ontario government, basically a center that supports learning and upskilling across the Ontario government and the broader public sector around cybersecurity and tech policy issues. So two great programmatic partners who've helped to build out this program with us at TMU. Also with Public Safety Canada, so part of the Government of Canada, a really core partner who helped to fund the build out and delivery of this program. So a program delivered with a great group of partners from across sectors. So what do we mean by this idea of secure and responsible tech policy? So the SRTP concept originated from a set of movements, organizations, and initiatives in this sort of emerging ecosystem. So we've likely all heard of responsible tech, security by design, ethical AI, and many other variations of this. But the general sense here is that there are a whole bunch of movements, initiatives that are rowing in the same direction. And that is towards better aligning digital tech and cyberspace that we're increasingly, interacting within, with the needs and values of open, inclusive, safe, prosperous, and democratic societies. And so you can see just some of the examples in the bottom right of other types of organizations in Canada and internationally who are in this, call it secure and responsible tech ecosystem, whom we've learned from and adapted some of their thinking in developing the secure and responsible tech concept. I think one other key point is, the way we think about policy in this program, it stretches beyond the notion of public policy developed and implemented largely by the public sector. Our sense is in this tech policy space, policy is developed and influenced through an ecosystem of actors that includes the public sector, but also industry, civil society, that are helping to establish the conditions, practices, rules, and oversight of digital tech, both in Canada and globally. So more expansive than just public policy. And so how do we approach learning in the program? Well, one aspect of it is we offer 3 learning tools that learners will engage with as you go through. So the first is our secure and responsible tech framework, which you see on the left here. This again adapted from a bunch of the thinking, a bunch of those other movements, is basically a simple principles-based framework that encourages learners to critically assess tech policies, both that others have developed, but also that they might be working on. The type of tool that you can potentially take back to work with you and use as a simple rubric for helping to assess some of the key aspects of tech policies. Are they transparent? Is accountability clear? Is equity and inclusion addressed? Are there risks or threats to democratic legitimacy? Those types of principles. The second key piece is we encourage learners to think about the policy landscape around tech policy issues. So this includes both, as you can see in the top right, the suite of actors in a space, from civil society, public sector, and private sector, but also the range of existing policies that are in place, that are interacting around a specific area of tech policy. So in this instance, this example is around social media policy, where efforts are being made to craft in Canada an online safety bill, but that piece of new policy, new legislation would be interacting with a series of existing policies, and all of that needs to be considered. And then the final piece is, in order to think about the different types of tech policies that exist, we introduce to learners this idea of a tech policy spectrum. And so you can see that at the bottom. And so it really spans from ideas and advocacy on the left all the way over to legally enforceable requirements. And so you can see the various types. So from thought leadership and activism to technologist frameworks and training, multilateral agreements or declarations, corporate policies and product design. Think about the important role that Meta's product standards or community standards play as a piece of tech policy. Industry certifications and standards, both for professionals, but also technical standards that can be adopted by organizations. And then towards the more legally enforceable end, public oversight bodies like, say, Canada's Privacy Commissioner, and finally, government laws and regulations, really sort of the firmest tool in the toolkit, but also not necessarily what's applicable in all cases. And so we really unpack this aspect in the course. So just to give you a quick preview of the course itself. So SRTP Foundations for winter 24. So this is the first course in the program. We've since launched also a cybersecurity course, and we have some exciting new courses launching in the new year. But this Foundations course is the first course, kind of the introduction to the program. It runs for 8 weeks from January 23 to March 12th. And the classes are on Tuesday evenings from 3 to 5 p.m. It's delivered in real time and online on the Zoom platform in a small cohort. It was designed this way to be really as convenient as possible for professional learners. Each week you could expect 2-hour classes plus up to 4 hours of self-study and group work. So this will be reviewing some of the materials, both written and videos, other types of things. Also some of the assignments, engaging with other class members online. And there's some flexibility for learners. Some people want to spend more time, others have less time to be able to contribute. So we say up to about 4 hours. In the program, we have exclusive access to leading guest speakers. And this includes both guest speakers who will join us in class, but also guest speakers who've been interviewed beforehand. And so interviews with those guest speakers, like Simon Kennedy on the right here, the Deputy Minister of the Federal Department, ISED, which has a major role in tech policy in Canada. They've been interviewed beforehand, and parts of those interviews are included as some of our course materials. So really, you get to hear directly from some of the experts. There a real focus on applied, collaborative, and inclusive learning. Using some of those tools we talked about, engaging in work and building relationships with some of the other learners in the class, and trying to just create an inclusive, open, and sort of safe space for people to engage. And then finally, as mentioned, if you pass the course, you achieve micro-credential, which is endorsed by all of the partners, including CCI, the Ontario Cyber Center of Excellence, and our organizations at Toronto Metropolitan University. And so lastly, application information. So who is the typical learner in this program? Typically, I would say it's appealed to early and mid-career professionals. The program is geared exclusively to professionals, to working professionals from across public, private, and civil society sectors. So whether you're working in policy, whether you're working in a technology field, but needing to upskill in areas of policy or better understand the landscape, or whether you're working in other related fields and just need to sort of develop your understanding and skills around tech policy. Those are the sort of the types of learners who typically join us, and I can speak more to that. What will learners gain? So again, this kind of core understanding of key issues in Canadian and global tech policy that are moving very rapidly today, including a big focus this winter on AI. You can gain skills for critically analyzing and assessing key tech policy issues. Again, those valuable cross-sector networks. And I think the ability to communicate more effectively about some of these tech policy issues, which hopefully can benefit you in your careers and in other aspects where you're engaging with these things. And so finally, what does it cost to take the program? Well, we have a varied rate structure. The regular rate for the program is $17.50 plus HST. And there's a nonprofit rate, recognizing that capacity to pay and availability of learning and development dollars is typically less in the nonprofit sector. So of $750 plus HST. I note as well that we have early bird rates, which run till the end of December, that offer a 50% discount on the regular rate to learners in the public and private sector. And a discount to $500 for nonprofit learners. So a big advantage to applying earlier. I'd also note that for folks at the regular rate, if there is financial need, if say you do not have access to learning and development support from your organization and wouldn't otherwise be able to take the program, we make a select number of bursaries available to those learners. So that's something that you can seek out as part of your application. And so I guess a final note on this. So there is an application process to get into the course. It's very important to us that we're sort of curating the right set of learners and also capping it at a reasonable sized cohort. So you do have to apply. We'll review the applications and get back to you as quickly as possible to let you know whether you've been accepted into the program, and then what steps you have to take to be enrolled in the program. And so that is it for my lightning presentation. I welcome any questions or comments that you have, and so I'll take guidance from my colleague Catherine on whether there are questions in the chat or whether folks are able to put up their hands and open their mics and ask questions directly.
Yep, so we don't have any questions in the Q&A yet. Please feel free to put them in there. Also, feel free to raise your hand and I can go ahead and get you unmuted. Will we be sending out the recording and slides? I think we're happy to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
I do just have a quick poll before we let folks go back to their lunch, if you don't mind. So I'll just go ahead and launch that now. We're really interested to learn about how you heard about the course and the info session. So if you could go ahead and answer that, that would be super helpful to us. And Andre, we do have another question about the course content in the Q&A. Do we speak about tech adoption in healthcare?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, honestly, because this space is moving so quickly, we're sort of constantly retooling the curriculum a little bit. So we're still working on the curriculum out to January. We haven't typically talked about health adoption or tech adoption, sorry, in healthcare as part of the lectures and the core curriculum, although we have touched on it to some extent around cybersecurity issues. But I would say, a key part of the program is the major project assignment, which gives learners in groups the opportunity to choose the tech policy issue that they'd like to spend their time focusing on. And I would say in previous classes, there's been a lot of interest in healthcare, whether on the tech adoption side, on the cybersecurity side. So there's definitely the potential for you to sort of choose your own adventure a little bit and focus in on healthcare as you're taking the course.
Okay, another question. Are classes recorded and sent out to learners in the week that they're unable to attend on a particular week?
Yes, they are. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question. So we use a few sort of digital tools in the course. So the courses are delivered over Zoom. We offer a pretty simple course website to learners that offers access to all the materials, to the assignments, and some TMU sort of cloud-based folders where they can keep their assignment materials. And we also use the Slack workspace as the place where outside of class time, learners can engage, we can share course information. And so in direct answer to your question, yes, each week we record the classes, and we seek to post them within a day or two to the course website, so that whether you missed the class or if you just wanted to sort of rewatch a bit of it, maybe part of the session with a guest speaker, for example, you're able to go back in and use that.
If a person works for a nonprofit but is signing up as an individual, are they still eligible for the nonprofit rate?
Yes, definitely. And I would say, so as you're completing the application, we ask you to identify the sector that you work within, as well as some other information like your current employer and title and those types of things. We recognize that in some instances learners are taking this like directly through the organization, other instances of their own volition, but while they're working. And so we totally respect that. And so I would say select the sector that most applies to you, and we would certainly look to accept you at the not-for-profit rate.
That's it for the Q&A for now. I'll give it a couple moments for any other follow-up questions. Is there an email that learners can contact if they have any follow-up questions that might not come to mind now?
Yes, totally. So on the course website, I think we list my colleague Rahel, who's the primary sort of conduit for inquiries with the program. But I would also say don't hesitate to reach out to me. Love engaging with people. I would say honestly, one of the things I and we most get out of this is just awesome relationships with a bunch of the learners. So I encourage you to reach out directly to me, and happy to answer any further questions by email or do a quick phone call. Really whatever works for you.
Great.
Okay, so we're approaching 12:30, so we can let you go early. But just a big thank you for joining us today. Again, we're really excited about this course in the winter. I just think we're doing a lot of tech policy work here at the university as well on AI, on social media, on information, on cybersecurity, on digital divides, in a number of these areas. And it just feels like the challenges are only getting more significant for Canada and globally. And so, you know, it's great to be able to run these programs and hopefully help people to upskill and sort of better equip themselves to engage in all these issues, but also to learn from many of you about you know, how you're tackling some of these things in your various roles. So we would love to have you in January.
Okay, thanks
All right.
everybody.